wouldn't mind, can I please introduce to you our MEP, Stephen Woolfe.
It's been a pleasure to me. I've met Admiral in the past, and Poole, when I first joined UKIP, there were people within the Poole party that made me very much at home. And I know how much you have worked particularly very hard here. And Bob Lister, I know you've done a tremendous job in trying to work with my own team to get me here. Thank you very much.
Well done, Bob.
But what is very keen to me is what you've seen today. I'm very fortunate not only to be UKIP's MEP for the north of England, but also UKIP's migration spokesman dealing with the trickiest issue that David has raised, of that of immigration to this country and migration across the world. I also sit as the Financial Affairs spokesman and on the powerful Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee in Europe. But in my journey across the United Kingdom, I attend many, many meetings, and I'm seeing many, many of our parliamentary candidates. And what I can see here today, and what I can say, is that you're absolutely certain, with David, that you not only have an incredibly able candidate, a very articulate candidate, but someone whose passion and will represent you tremendously when he wins this seat in May of this year. And grew up in a place called Burnage. It was a council estate, a very large council estate. We stuck together, we worked hard, we knew what it was like not to have very much. The biggest message my mother and grandparents used to say is, we may not be able to give you very much, Stephen, but we can buy you books and give you education. That has borne me well in the future, in that I was able to win a scholarship for a school that was once a grammar school, that helped many people like me from my background to get on in life and to break the barriers. But it was the Labour Party and the Conservatives decided that grammar schools weren't for all, didn't they? I was also very fortunate to be part of a mixed-race family. My grandfather is a black American. I have a Jewish grandmother. I have an Irish grandmother from County Kildare, which is why you'll see I have an incredibly strong cup of tea on the table. And so when I was first asked to go down to UKIP, clearly there was all these stories about what UKIP was about. You were a bunch of racists. You were a bunch, as David said, homophobes, misogynists. But I spoke to my family, and we went down to Torquay to my first ever meeting. They said, keep your eyes open. When I got there, what did I find? I found people like my mum, people like my uncles, people like my grandma, people who really value the key things about humanity, of sharing with each other, the key issues of looking after one another, the key issues of believing in this country of flag, of believing in family, of believing in faith, and believing in fairness. That is what I found in UKIP, and from that day in Torquay I realised I was at home and I was with my new family. Why we believe that we should be out of Europe. David made it very, very clear. Take a look at Greece, as I have done, a country that I've known particularly well. Look at the devastation that you see in countries like Greece, where you had a man who was a pharmacist, Dimitri, I can't remember his surname, sadly, who approached the steps of that parliament, one of the homes of the parliament, and he was heard saying, I cannot bear this anymore. I cannot bear this debt. And on the steps of one of the nation's parliaments of this world, shot himself dead. He shot himself dead, and it was found out in his suicide note that he didn't want to leave the debts of himself to his children anymore. It is a country with the highest rates of suicide in Europe. It's the country with the highest rates of depression. You see, in Spain, their families leaving in droves, with 70% youth unemployment in certain areas. In Portugal, they say in Lisbon, it's the flight of the children, because every Sunday you see families queuing up to watch their children fly to South America. The euro has destroyed Europe, it's destroyed its hopes, it's destroyed its dreams. There is no solidarity, there is only poverty, there is a mistake. And those Europeanists who want us to have the euro and continue here want the same poverty to occur in this country, and I will not stand for it, and I will fight to make sure we get our country back. UKIP believes in the NHS. My aunt was a nurse in the NHS. She has seen the changes, but what we don't believe in is the private finance initiative that gave from £50 billion of funding from private companies and made them a profit of £300 billion. We will say enough's enough, and we will cancel those contracts. We will say that the middle management has risen to over 51% now in the NHS. Where are the nurses and doctors who are benefiting from that? We will make sure that that is slashed as well, to ensure that we have more money for frontline services and to make sure that we don't have to be waiting more than 4 hours at our hospitals. And I know David and others in there have been working with Louise Balls on this to make sure that happens. We believe that education is the key to growth in this country. That is why we suggest that a grammar school should be in every single town in this country. But we're not going to allow those who don't want to go to university to be treated in a disparative way, to look at them as though they're a second-class citizen. It doesn't work in Germany. They treat the technical colleges and the people there on an equal level to those who go to university. And so in our view, we will build those technical colleges. We will allow those people to go. We will fund them. We will fund those who want to go to secondary education and education after they finish work, and we will treat them equally as those of university as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the eyes of this country are wide open. This year, UKIP won an election where we beat the Conservative Party and the Labour Party and the other political parties, the first time it was done in 106 years with nearly 5 million voters. They said we couldn't get councillors, we now have over 500. They said we couldn't get MPs, we now have 2 who did it in the dignified way by resigning and going back to their electorate and asking them to be voted. They said that we wouldn't hold power and get seats in Parliament this year. I know they will, and David will be one of them. Because we are a people's party that carries the history of democracy in this country. The place where I was from in Manchester, where there is a cross for the Peterloo massacre, where 15 people were killed simply for asking for the vote. The issues in Merthyr Tydfil, where 32 people were killed simply for asking for the vote. Where the women who stood up outside our own parliament and were beaten simply for asking for the vote for women. And in 1969, when we got the universal suffrage for men and women, it was handed over to the European Union to take that power, take our option away from us in 1972. Yes. We believe in democracy. We believe the right of holding our elites to account. We believe that we're a party that has other issues and other ideas. We believe that we're the party that everybody has their eyes wide open for. And in 2015, in May of this year, they'll have their eyes even further wide open. Thank you very much.